my zone. I feel like I'm alone. I feel like I'm unknown to the world that's full of clones. My originality's focused on principalities broken. I'm loaning my heart and soul to the game that's scared to pay it back. And failure is a motherfucker. The strength to go on and believing in another sucker.
Man, it must be hump day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the greatest show on a Wednesday that you didn't know about, but you know now. So, as you can see, I have another beautiful roundtable of gentlemen here on another fantastic episode of Gentlemen's Talk. This is our Juneteenth special. I am one of two of the most dynamic duo hosting casts here in Mr. GQ.
I am the other DJ, Micah B. Y'all know what time it is.
So let's turn up. So we already know what it is. We got a round table going. As you can see, I have two very esteemed gentlemen who just so happen to almost look like twins, bald-headed and glasses, though. But
I knew he was gonna say it. I did
not expect it. I didn't expect it, but it is what it is. But it's cool. But I love it because these are two men who, just like DJ Micah B up there, I have got a very long and close relationship with. So I've got my man, Mr. Devin Alexander, up there, a young man from one of my former units before I changed career paths, and he's trying to get on that same path. And my man that I went to college with, had a fitness organization with, did all things explosive because he's in the explosive game, and just like I am, and that is Mr. Dorian Nora down there. Also a very, very, very much avid comic book guy, in case y'all don't know. And if you don't know, now you know. So what's going on, fellas?
Man,
Well,
not much. Just
hanging in there.
Before we go any further, Dorian is also an LXG brother. So without further ado, we're gonna do it one time. Hold up,
God. One time for the one time. So today, like I said, we've got a very special show. Yes, we know the Juneteenth was yesterday, but guess what? Not yesterday, but Monday. So we had to make sure we didn't forget about it. We didn't want y'all to forget about it, so we thought we would make sure that we brought it to you. So for those who for some reason failed or dropped out of high school or just didn't pay attention in history class, so Juneteenth is significant for the state of Texas because what happened is the Union on June 19th, 1865 came on down to good old Galveston, Texas, and noticed that there were still slaves in the fields out there working and doing their thing. It's like, hey man, y'all been free for a hot minute, right? And they're like, wait, what? It's like, yeah, man, y'all been free.
That's how the conversation will go nowadays.
That's really how it would go. I'm trying to translate. That was how they didn't talk like this in 1865, but in 2023, we're gonna keep it a buck and be real with it. But we bring that up because the entire point of the roundtable that we wanted to bring to the fold was to talk about progression since Juneteenth. So what that's going to do now is lead us into the very, very first question I have. And we'll kind of start this since I'm down here on the bottom left of the screen. We'll start up top. We'll go to the right, and then we'll finish up with Mr. Nora down there. If everybody cool with that, everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So the very first question is very simple. Have we truly progressed since Juneteenth?
Oh, I guess that's me, huh?
That is you.
That is me. I think
Happy Juneteenth, brother.
Oh, well, yeah. Happy Juneteenth to everybody.
Happy Juneteenth.
I've been thinking about what I was going to say and whatnot. To say that we progressed, I would say that there, in certain areas, I want to say yes for the Black community we have. But then in certain areas, I'm thinking, no, we haven't progressed, and we there are certain areas I think we need to work on. Like, for example, I can remember, and I'm about to age myself. I remember back in the 80s where it was not talked about amongst the Black community to bring up mental health. As far as being Black, it's like, oh no, that's white people. White people always have crazy things happening to them. We don't have that. We're strong. We're kings. We were brought up on that. And it progressed into the 90s, and we got into a lot of different things, which is like the gangster era. And I don't want to go into a whole bunch of things, but I think now mentally, self-inventory and self-help is not just a white person thing. It's not just something it is a humanistic thing that it's like, you know what, if you lived in a hood, or even if just being black, you have certain things that you might need to talk about, and you might need to vent out, whether it's with a therapist, that's with your significant other. So I think that that is something, but I think the one thing that we kind of kept the same, where we might need a little bit more work on, is how we judge each other as black people, and how harsh we're so quick to tell people that they're not invited to the cookout, and how they're not black because of certain characteristics. And I think that's one thing as a community that we can work on.
Yeah, and Mobby, you're 100% right, man. Mental health is one of the most important things in life. And at the same time, of course, we know June, as well as it also is Men's Mental Health Month as well. So, always keep those types of things in mind.
Lord.
Man, somebody moving some heaviness back there. So, DJ Michael B, your thoughts on that, man?
Banging.
I do think physically, and when I say physically, as in entrepreneurship and things of that nature in the black community, yes, we have progressed, because you see a lot of people making clothing lines. You see a lot of people do, even if it's not successful record labels, they're actually going out and trying these different kind of things, startup companies and things like that. And I see a lot more black people investing in stocks and things of that nature. The mentality is still a lot of the same, though. And when I say that, it's not to be rude or anything, but I don't think there's a race more divided than the black race at certain points in this era. Like, for instance, just something so simple like, that's their light skin shit.
Yeah.
Dark skin shit. Or my favorite, because my family's from the Caribbean, even though I'm black. Hey, you're black. You're a black Caribbean, not a black American. It's like, it doesn't matter. I'm black. And you see it all through the world. It don't matter if you're from Switzerland, Europe, America, and you're white. Guess what? They're going to say you're Caucasian. They're not going to say you're a European Caucasian. They're not going to say, especially here in America, American Caucasian. So why is there African American? Why is there Afro Caribbean? We're black. And that's one of the things I think mentality wise, that's the old house nigga mentality. Because you sit there and we study about it, and you always hear, oh well, the light skin was the house niggas most of the time, and then the dark skin ones was in the field. So that's the one place I still think we need help with overall, is the division within the black community.
I like that. Mr. Nora, what's your thoughts, man?
I agree. There is definitely a lot of division. Obviously, we have progressed as far as entrepreneurship, also entertainment. For some reason, I think black people are more revered as entertainers than even entrepreneurs. Like, you can be a business owner, you can be a lawyer, you can be a doctor, you can have your own car shop, like automotive shop. But nobody's more revered than the rappers and the actors and the singers, And it's cool, but we shouldn't have to always put on a show. If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, and I got you. That's it lines up into some of my actual similar thoughts as well. And I do think on the surface, yes, we have progressed 100%. We have progressed because we're no longer owned by anybody. But at the same time, we are prisoners within our own communities and cultures. And that is the problem. We have to find our way out of that, because me and Micah, we've talked about this on multiple occasions. Like, we are by far the most self-destructive, self-sabotaging group that exists. Like, we will not support our own when they're trying to progress. We would rather talk bad about them, tear them down. And I'm like, why aren't we that much more supportive? We're not. So there's if I put it on a scale of 1 to 10, we're more so we're about a 6. If I'm keeping it a buck, we're about a 6. Like, we have so much further we can go, but we won't do that. Like, for some reason, we will not help. We won't support. We won't be I'm not sitting there telling you to be everything under the sun and be everything pro-black. You don't have to do all that. But when you see some young up-and-coming prodigy, some little 14, 15-year-old kid, like you even talk about on the news, he became like a big-time clothing designer. We should be standing behind that young man as a community and be like, hey, man, that is how many 15-year-olds in general have gotten that far? And we don't even talk about that near like we should. So yes, we have progressed, but I do think we should in 2023 we should be a lot further along than in my mind it feels like that we are. Like we should be able to walk up and down the street and things should feel normal. I shouldn't feel like I got to look over my shoulder. I shouldn't have to keep my head on a swivel. Like I shouldn't have to do that. I should be able to just live my life, be normal. But we don't know what normal is, because if I decide, in my opinion, one day I want to go, I want to go rock gym clothes, all of a sudden I look a certain type of way. Or, if I want to go, back, let's take it back to the early 2000s, we was wearing, big jeans and big tall tees and forces, you're looked at a certain way. Having tattoos, you got looked at a certain way. And I'm like, well, everybody has tattoos. Damn near every group has tattoos in one way, shape, form, or fashion. But, it's us. And, it's just like Dorian said, it's cool if you're a movie star, if you're a professional athlete. It's cool to be, popular in that regard, but not as a businessman or a businesswoman, not as a CEO, not as the next great inventor. Like, why are all of the biggest progressive inventions that we had as a culture happen before all of us were born?
Dang. Okay.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Let's think about that. We wouldn't have the refrigerator had an African American not created it. We would not have the stoplight had an African American not created it. We would not have a telephone had an African American not created it. Like, let's think about that. Like, why is it in 2023 we don't have more of those progressive individuals that do those things now? Where are they? So that now that leads me into my second question, and we'll go in reverse order. So I'll start with myself, and it's, would our ancestors be proud? And honestly, if they were just, and I'm imagining that they would definitely be watching this, but if they were just sitting there watching this happen, kind of like the Matrix, let's play it like that. If they were just watching this on about 400 different screens, just different aspects of our community and whatnot, and what we're doing now, I think they would be upset. They would be happy and they would be upset. They would be both. Because actually, I like that comment. Let me drop it up there real quick. So we have definitely become more lazy and trust me, keep listening, Mom, because when we get to the bottom of this show, I'm gonna drop a bomb on some people and they're not gonna like it, but I don't give a fuck. This show ain't made for kids. But I do think there are lots of aspects within what we do that our ancestors would just hold their head down and be like, I can't believe I went through all this for us to do this. Like, why are we still doing some of the things that we're doing? Like we've survived the crack pandemic and all these things and all. We've gotten past all these things. We've gotten past segregation. Like, we've gotten past all these things, but we still want to find our way back to those old bad habits. Prime example. Our ancestors would look at John Morant like he lost his fucking mind right now.
It's true.
A $200 million man, young black man with a kid, acting like this. Boy, our ancestors would slap the shit out of him. No question. Like, let's keep it a buck. Am I wrong?
You're right.
Right.
Like, absolutely right.
Yeah. Dorian, your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I think just some things have become normalized, like broken homes, the idea of like struggling. Like, when, a lot of us black folks, when we want to do something, when we want to start a business or anything like that, a lot of us will take the cheap route and do the bare minimum.
Yep.
And act surprised when it doesn't pan out, this, that, like, even education. Like, I think, like I see more black women, completing college and stuff like that, building careers and everything, and that's good. But like, black men, like young black boys, are like just, going off of whoever taught them how to live life. Like, for me, the primary male figures I had growing up was my dad until my parents split up when I was about 11. Then I had my uncles to look up to. And You know, some of them had their stuff together, some of them didn't. And the main ones that were around me were the ones that didn't have their stuff together. And I honestly didn't learn anything from them. So like a lot of the life I've learned how to live, I had to figure it out. And I had to seek people outside of my community for advice, guidance, and stuff like that. And it sucks because there are some kids that don't have access to, you know, good mentors or anything like that. And they get stuck in the same cycle. Yeah.
Michael B, what's up?
Would our ancestors be proud? I think they would be proud to a certain extent, as in there is a lot of self-sustaining Black businesses. There's more Black CEOs, probably not more than ever, but on the flip side of that, I'm pretty sure every one of y'all in here have heard of Black Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
Black Wall Street was bombed and destroyed. We never built it back up. And not only was it destroyed because it was thriving. And I think the divide, it was booming, yeah. And part of the divide does come where, and I hate to say it like this, but Charles Barkley made the comment a long time ago that we're not the people your kids should look up to, which is basketball players. Pretty much to paraphrase what he said. I think he's absolutely right, because the kids, a lot of the kids, I mean, when I was young, I was the same way too. Now that I've gotten older, I try to mentor and be a lot more out of my community now. But gangster life is glorified. Celebrity life and entertainment life is glorified. Doctors, Black doctors, Black firefighters, these kind of things aren't glorified. And especially now with the introduction of social media, everything is for clout. Everything. You get famous for killing somebody on live overnight. Even if that means you're going to jail, because we all know you did it. You got famous. People are going to rewatch that over and over and over again. And it's going to garner so many views, they're going to start putting ads in it. And the person that posted is going to make money off of it.
I mean, just think about looking at TV. Look at some of our most famous shows. Look at a show like Power. Power is one of our most popular shows in the community, and look what it's about. Is it about actually anything positive? No. We're glorifying gangsters in the drug game. Like, we're cool with that.
Yeah.
And speaking of TV, I feel like the late 80s and early 90s was the pinnacle of where our ancestors would have been proud of what we were putting out on TV. You had Phillip Banks, successful Black judge, nice life. You had Carl Winslow, an officer in the community where officers are now looked down on by most of the Black community. And if we probably had more officers in the Black community that were actually Black, they wouldn't be villainized so much.
An officer in Chicago on top of that.
Yeah. So
don't forget Bill Cosby, a doctor.
Bill Cosby, a doctor. And it blows my mind every now and then when I think about it. We don't have no all Black hospitals. It's not a bad thing because, you know, obviously it's not segregating things anymore. But I dare any one of you right now to name it off the top of your head an all Black hospital owned by a Black person or ran by a Black person.
You got to go to the other side of the globe for that.
Exactly. So I think they see some assets where they're like, okay, they're making an imprint, but the difference between the civil rights era and now, we progressed way more in the civil rights era as a community than we have now.
Yeah.
And we're more free now, and that's the saddest thing.
What you think, D?
You know, I'm not trying to like make it all funny and whatnot, but I don't know if anybody's ever saw this, but you remember, if you have, Boondocks, whenever they did that episode where they had Martin Luther King wake up after his assassination and he woke up to our times. That for some reason that popped in my head is that's what I would think our ancestors would do. But more often than not, I also think that our ancestors would show us how they navigate it, because we always say that right now it's harder for us, you know, and nothing to take light of what happened with George Floyd. That was a tragedy and that was harsh. But if I had to compare to what our ancestors had to go through as far as slavery, you got to understand they had to navigate on as far as slavery and trying to become a citizen in a like, let's just take somebody that was a slave for 5 or 6 years afterwards. They had to navigate on how to be a citizen. So I think our ancestors would not only be upset at us right now, I would also think that they'd be like, you know what, sit back, Junior. Sit back, sweetheart. Let me show you how to navigate and how to work this community. And they would show us that it wouldn't be as hard as we think it would be as far as building a community. So to answer your question, I think they would be upset because we do have it a lot easier. I'm not saying that systemically everything's all rainbows and happiness, but I think that our ancestors would be like, I paved the way for you guys to do something better than what you're doing, and you're not living up to that potential. So I think that not only would they be upset, but they would show us exactly how to make this work if they had the opportunity.
So something you said I want to hit on because it made perfect sense, and I can drop that on there too. So yeah, and he's right. I mean, there's definitely lots of reasons why they would be completely upset. At the same time, what we've got to look at too is 1865 versus 2023.
Yeah.
Mentally, we have lost our fight. We don't have the mental toughness that they do, or they did, excuse me. Like we don't. We're because, and we'll get to this a little bit later in the show, but we would turn our focus more into playing the blame game than the solution game. And that's the problem. We're always looking to blame somebody else instead of looking in the mirror. Like the thing is, and you're right about this too, Devin, when you said it, we do have it easier. The problem is we don't take advantage of what we have because everyone has a chance. You are not stuck in your circumstances at all. You got 3 people on this panel that are from very suspect areas in Texas that we live from, and we all got away from and got out of there. Like, you know, we got out. We did fine. Like, we're successful, you know, for what it's worth. We're not billionaires, obviously, but we're good. You know, we got 2 fathers on this panel. Clearly, we've done something right because we are now raising children in this generation, in this era. You know, we've got godfathers in this over here. We've got uncles in this panel here. Like we're doing something right because someone is looking up to us in one way, shape, form, or fashion. You've got 3 veterans in this conversation, which means we have taken it as far as we can take it to be successful, and we are still not looking back. We're not trying to go back to the old days and go run around with the old crews. We're not trying to do none of that shit. I'm telling you right now, like I tell everybody, I'm way too fucking pretty for jail. Ain't even happen. If I go to jail, it's behind my kids. It ain't about to be behind me doing some dumb shit that revolves me, you know, doing something else. Like that's just me being me. But
shit, I'm 5'7". I ain't got time for that either.
Yeah.
I'm 5'7", man. You know, 5'7", dude. If you ain't funny and you can't fight like Jean-Claude Van Damme or Bruce Lee, it's all over. I ain't got time for that, man. I ain't got time.
I don't know, man. You might have a little Michael Jai White in there, man. You know, you got a little Brazilian jiu-jitsu background, man. You might
I do, but I don't want to test it against somebody that has a shank. I'm telling you, Jeremy, it's just like listen. Like,
he said he came from the 313.
One of the guys at the last drill for National Guard, he goes, "Hey, Alexander, you know how to fight, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Do you think you can still take?" I heard you used to fight like a gauntlet matches, 5 guys and all that. I'm like, dude, I'm 40. I'm about to be 40. Do I want to do that to impress anybody? No. So what makes you think I want to do that in jail? You know,
I don't want to do that when I'm 23.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't want to do that now.
Just because I might be trained in it, don't mean I want to test that theory.
Yeah, I don't want to test. Listen, like you said, if it's not my kids and it's not my wife, it's not anything family oriented.
It's just not worth it.
I don't know if this is one of the questions, but it's one of those things that I feel like as as a black man and as a man, there's always this, oh, let's prove this, let's prove that. And it's like, bro, I'm getting too old to where I feel like I need to prove it by action all the time. I know that
Yeah.
we have tests that we have to pass here and there, but if it ain't a test or if it ain't going, if it's not going to make me money, I don't need to prove nothing to you. That's not in my
100%.
ID. That's not in my
And I think,
DNA.
I think that's the other biggest thing that our ancestors would be upset about is the fact that we don't use our hands anymore. Everything is, oh, let me go pull that strap. Oh, let me go pop the trunk. Oh, let me go do that. Like we as a culture are so quick to pull up and shoot on somebody instead of just, you know, kind of like Pop said on Friday, you know what I'm saying? Say, hey man, you live to fight another day, man. Like you pull that gun. No, boss, like you might win that particular battle, but you now have lost the war of your life.
You on a t-shirt.
Yeah. Like make it make sense, right? So it brings me to my other question. We'll go back to our original panel. So it's gonna go back with you first, Mr. Alexander. And it's how can we, as the mentors in this essence, influence our youth to jump into more leadership positions as they get older? What do you think there are things that we can do to help them get into those leadership positions so that when we become the old heads, not the mentors we're under, but the old heads, we know we're in good hands as a culture?
I want to go back to what we talked about, community. The biggest thing that I feel as far as the black community is that we don't have the black community. We don't have that vision. So I think we have to have mentor programs coming in and making sure that wherever the school system is failing, we as men pick up. We need to have more accountability in the sense of knowing what you can't save everybody on your block, but if you can get one or two houses and then communicate with somebody else, as far as like, hey, I got one, two, I got house number one, house number two, and house number three. They ain't got no dad, and they don't have, the mom is working two jobs, you know. I need to help them with the food pantry, or you know, help the kids with learning martial arts, or they don't know how to fix a car. You know, let me teach them. We don't have that, and I think that it starts with building a community. And once you start building that community of communicating, and it's not about this brother's better than that brother and all this other stuff. If you can build that community and communicate with each other, I think that that's where we start with it. Because once you have a black man, a black male, a young man, be brought up with just some dude that spent maybe 10 minutes, maybe an hour throughout his time showing him how to do something, whether that's something with his hands or that's something writing down on a pad on how to do math. That's going to stop that one kid from being out in the streets, watching TV, playing video games, which there's nothing wrong with those things, but there's no baseline from what we used to grow up with, which was, hey, there's a time for TV, then there's a time for you to go out and rake the leaves. There's a time for you to go out and learn how to fix things, how to get hurt and get up and do sports. We don't have that. So I think if we have that connectivity and that alternative to what drugs and alcohol and just having sex with women and opposite sex and or whatever the case may be, if we're able to do that, I think that once you build that community back up and that communication between mentors and young women, black women and young black men, I think that'll be a good start.
I totally agree. First, I used to volunteer at CIS. I used to work at CIS, and one of the ways I used to give back all the time, even when I wasn't getting paid for it, I would go to Harlem, which is a school in my community. And I'm from McNair, so, you know, it is what it is. Go out there and I'd be just one of the only males in this school trying to essentially teach these kids like, hey, I know where you're from. I'm from here too. I grew up on the same streets you walk. I saw the drug dealers too, but I didn't become a product of my environment as I got older. And I want to be the one positive example. If I am the only positive example you have, I want to make sure and do that to my best ability. That was my way of doing it. And of course, like you alluded to sports, I think growing up back then, coaches were more than just coaches. They were also part of the village. And the more you go into youth sports now and you see it, the parents don't allow the coaches to coach and give life lessons. And a lot of the coaches now choose not to do the whole equating sports to life either. And that's one thing. If we're young and black, we essentially like, hey, most of them want to be sports players. Well, a lot of people get to sports in college and don't go any further. So what's next? The devalue of education now. And it's annoying that education is devalued. And I mean, successfulness is only a thought of being a millionaire or billionaire. That's what the kids look and see as successful. That's not the correct way to look at it, because I know plenty of people that aren't millionaires, pool in their backyard, 2-story house, not wanting for anything. They got everything they need, everything they can want. You don't have to be a millionaire to get that stuff either. And it's just, there's a mentality that kids see from the time they're young, and they want to chase that. And when they do chase it, they go about it the way they see in their community. So a lot of it is OGs aren't OGs anymore. I remember going on the block when I was young, and I was like, man, I need to make some money, so I'm going to sell weed. I had a guy that knew me from church, and he still knows me now. We still talk about it. We laugh about it now because it's funny. But I went out there on the street, and he was like, what you doing out here? I was like, man, I'm out here selling. That dude took every piece of weed I had on me and was like, take your ass home. You know better than this. Go get an education. I've seen your grades. You're too smart for this bullshit. Don't do that. But the kids are too disrespectful, and people like our age, sometimes we just don't want to deal with it, but we have to find a way to deal with it and break the cycle, because when we were young, somebody broke the cycle for us, and they didn't break the cycle for a lot of others. But if we can just get through to, if there's 4 of us on this panel, if each one of us could get through to 4 kids, it will make a difference. You just never know who's watching and will start following. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Michael. It definitely starts when they're young. That's when you have the most impression on the kid. You can start as early as like 2 or 3. Like they start mimicking everything you do. Yeah. Once they start seeing you not caring, they gonna stop caring. Yeah, there's a lot of kids that are in that program. But I definitely think to bring everybody together, it would take mentorship. It would take community. There are some folks that don't have an example of mentorship. They want to be mentors. My example, I found that in the Bible last year. Like, I was saved last year, so Amen. I found that in Jesus. Like I found leadership through Jesus, and I've been leading my own squad and my unit and everything. I've been trying to use that example, and it's been working pretty well so far. My goddaughter is working with her. She already has a relationship with Jesus, so it comes second nature to her. But I definitely think it starts with mentorship and having an early age, or at least find some type of way to relate. Like once you can find common ground, it's pretty easy to make progress.
It all goes to that old adage, it takes a village. And it does. It 100% does. Like, and it's just like all 3 of you have alluded to it in different ways, but we're all on the same sheet of music. We have to, it starts with us. We have to be able to get out there and do our best to participate and help the youth. But at the same time, the youth behind us can't be out there just looking for a handout. It works twofold. You can't just sit around and wait for somebody to help you. You've got to seek that help. You've got to ask for help. You've got to know where to look for that help. And, and you may find yourself in a situation like Dorian just said. He found the Bible last year. One of my biggest things that I've always gone back to is the gym for me. The gym is a place where I can find everything. And then, of course, being, the whole military aspect of it, being in as long as I've been in. I've been in a leadership position for a very long time. So I've mentored a lot of, young soldiers and some older than me. But it's because I've struggled enough to where I know how to keep people from falling into that trap, because it's easy to fall into that trap. It's hard to get out of that trap. So without that constant guidance, without that mentorship, without somebody that's essentially holding you accountable, to use the exact term as it is, how do you know if you're going to be, if you're on the right track? You don't know. Is somebody checking you along the way? Because we could be doing whatever we think is right, and it could be 100% wrong. We could be doing this and think, oh yeah, I'm doing this, the whole time we in reverse and have no idea. It's that simple. But if without that person that's kind of not telling you what to do, not even holding your hand, but just being that light for you. Sometimes you just got to be a light for somebody. And Mike, you already said it. There's 4 of us here. If each one of us can be a light for a youth, we've done our part. It is now for that youth, when that youth becomes in a position that we're in, to be a light for the next person and for the next person. And it takes a village. And it, just like we were fortunate. A lot of us had our great grandparents in our lives. Some of us had our grandparents, and they were the lights for a lot of us. Like my great grandmother was an encyclopedia of all things wisdom. She would say things metaphorically to me that would make no sense when I was a kid. And then as I got older, all that shit just started clicking. I was like, what in the world was she talking about? But it started clicking. And now we are in that same position. We have that same ability to do the same. But the question is, will we do it? Your time is free. It doesn't cost you anything. Obviously, you can't get it back, but it's an investment. Will you invest in the generation behind us? Because eventually we'll be old and we'll just be sitting back watching, hoping that, the world that we know it as is in a better place once we're no longer in that position to do the things that we're doing now. Somebody has to take our places, and we hope and we want them to be better than us. Just like as parents, we want our kids to do better. And it's not because we've done something wrong. It's just every single generation should progress further. But in the sake of, for looking at it from our culture's perspective, it doesn't seem that way sometimes, because our ancestors were hardworking. They did everything the hard way, and and that's because of the circumstance. They worked their tails off to get the smallest of things. And then now we're so coddled. Everything is handed. We're always looking for a handout. And it leads into, something that we wanted to talk about. And actually, I'm gonna save that for you. Want to go ahead and drop your bomb, because you had a question. You actually have 3 veterans. You get 3 different perspectives from this question.
Yeah, actually, I do. So I wanted to ask you guys. This came up on the Memorial Day special, but I also wanted to ask you guys, because we have 2 more military guys here in GQ. We have progressed in this country, and a lot of blacks are now in the military. But it seems like everywhere you turn, somebody is always saying something slick like, "You're a black man in the white man's military," and things. So, I know y'all have all heard some form of that in your military past. So how exactly, when people keep shoving that down y'all's throat, and then kids are hearing that and they're deterring away from being in the military, which I think the military is a good thing. I tried to go to the Navy. I just failed the physical. It is what it is, in large part. Hey, so what would y'all use, or what would y'all say to counteract that? Because I think the military is a very good thing, because it trains you mentally to break the cycle that we're in.
Oh, am I starting?
It doesn't even matter. It's 3 of us, though.
I'll start. So whenever the George Floyd incident happened, I was actually on a task force mission to Washington, and I actually got sent on my birthday. My which Jeremy knows my readiness NCO. He called me up and he goes, I thought he was calling me to wish me happy birthday. I go like, hey, what's going on, Sergeant? He goes, hey, isn't your birthday coming up? I'm like, yeah, it is. I'm like, are you calling to wish me happy birthday? He goes, nope, I'm calling you because remember that insurrection that just happened? And I'm like, yeah, Sergeant, it's crazy, right? And he goes, guess what? Uncle Sam got you a first class ticket to Washington. Happy birthday. And click, and that was it. And so I realized that then that the race wars, everything that you want to call it, COVID was going rampant. I was like, man, this is really heating up. And I actually got that question. A tall black dude came up to me and he's like, hey, bro, can I ask you something? I'm in my uniform. I'm taking a break from being up for 13 hours and we were sitting down, and he came and he came down and he asked me, and he goes, he asked that same question. And I knew that it was coming up because I, like a lot of black people, have witnessed police brutality at a young age. But when he asked that, I didn't know what my answer was. And I've been able to perfect it now that it's been several years from that. And basically it starts with one. If you see something wrong, you see something power structure wise, whether it's the white man's Navy, the white man's military, or whatever, the good old boys isn't going to last long. All these people are dying off. There's leaders like Jeremy. There's other black leaders. There's Hispanic leaders. There's minority leaders that have been through infrastructures of power that they don't want to have happen to the next generation. So if you don't step forward, then another good old boys is going to be created. That's just in any kind of job, whether it's military or not. So my answer to that question has always been, it's got to start with one. And I myself, as a black man, being in the military, have seen systemic rank type of things that have happened that are foul. But at the same context, if I wasn't there, I wouldn't have been able to be that person to stop it and to report it at my level and to do something about it. And it always starts with one. And so that's the way I look at it, is if you're not going to change it, the good old boys will keep it the same. And I don't ever want it to be like that for my kids and their kids' kids. So it starts with one for me.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree, because it's actually just like Bobby said, you got to step forward and create that community. And I'm back from the old army. I came in 2007, so we were still in the heat of Iraq at this time. Like, Iraq was on and popping at this time. And, here I am, a 17-year-old kid does, like, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do with my life. So, I found solace in the military. And I heard that growing up. Oh, man, I can't believe you're joining the military. You're doing this, that, and the other. I'm like, well, I could stay my happy ass in Baytown. And you know what's going to happen? I'm going to end up working at the fucking plants. Because that's what everybody who doesn't go off to big colleges end up doing. Working at Shell, working at Exxon, working at Chevron. That ain't me. I tried it. That shit was trash. I fucking hated it. And I'm no stranger to manual labor, but working at the plants is fucking trash. Power to those people that love doing that shit. That shit wasn't for me. The military brought a level of structure into my life that I did not have. I had great parents. I had great siblings. I had all that good stuff. But I was missing something for me, personally for me. And that's what I needed. And I was able to find that with the military. And it all started. Like I said, I was 17 going into my senior year of high school. So for 11 months, the unique thing about, like I said, without what the three of us in this panel here do is, I was able to go to this program we call the RSP program. So I was able to just continue to learn more and more before I even went to training. But then when I went to training, it was an eye-opening experience. I had never in my life seen something like that. Cats from all across the U.S., all 50 states. I met cats from states that I ain't never even really thought about visiting. talking about from like Wisconsin and shit like that. I'm like, bro, people are from there? Like the fuck, you know what I'm saying? People from South Dakota. I was like, wait a minute, what? Like, you know, mind you, we're talking about, you know, 17, 18-year-old me. I didn't, at this time, the furthest I had traveled was Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. I hadn't traveled anywhere else. So Missouri was the 4th state I had ever visited in my life at this time. So, you know, to go through all that and talk to all these different people from all these different, you know, different walks of life, and then come back home and start to apply it and see like, man, okay, now it all makes sense. You know, like you see it on TV, you see the brown round, you see people getting yelled at, and I'm here to tell you, just like I'm sure Alexander can tell you, it's not 100% what you think it is. There's a method to the madness. And the method to the madness is very simple. I can explain it to you the way that I explain it to my high school kids now because of the career path that I'm in now. It is no different than my athletes who go through strength and conditioning in 2-a-days. It's the exact same concept. As a coach, when you get a brand new group or a brand new team, your objective as the coach is to get them to play as one cohesive unit. When we go off to basic training and learn those things, it is the job of the drill sergeants to get 120 complete fucking strangers to be one cohesive unit. We ain't got to like each other, but guess what the fuck we got to do? Meet that objective together, or we're going to get our ass whooped every single step of the way. And I don't mean that physically. Well, I do mean that physically, but through exercise, not through a belt. But, you know, there was a lot that we went through, a lot of low crawling, a lot of push-ups, a lot of the norm. But by the time my time ended and I graduated AIT, my whole thought process was like, damn, this is dope. You know, like I felt like I finally felt like I knew exactly what purpose my life was. And as I progressed in my career and I started put in these little positions of leadership, like, you know, assistant manager, supervisory type of things, but not the boss, you know. And, you know, you're in charge of a couple people here and there, or, you know, now all of a sudden you're moved in a position where, you know, 7 or 8 guys and gals are looking to you for answers. And you're like, shit, I got to have an answer for this. You know, without everything that I had learned from the military, I wouldn't be able to do that. Yeah. I couldn't have 8 strangers come up to me and ask me for help and guidance and I just know what to do. No, the military brought that out of me. And then, you know, in the position that I'm in now, I can sit there and, hey, you know, put 100 people in front of me. And guess what we're about to do? Go get the job done. I promise you that. We'll you know, and Mike has seen this shit firsthand with me as a coach. I don't care what the team looks like. I'm going to find a way to bring the absolute best out of that team. Because I took a team full of short people in middle school. And I mean short. Like my tallest kid was about 3 inches shorter than me. And we was balling our ass off. And Micah has seen this because he saw probably, in my opinion, still to this day, one of my greatest coaching jobs, period. Because we were in this game. And we was getting our ass handed to us. This is a middle school game for the folks who hadn't caught on yet. And we was getting whooped. And I mean, it wasn't close. Like at halftime, I think we were down, what was it, 21?
Yeah.
And Micah was sitting in front. The visiting parents were sitting behind him. And they was talking all that hot shit. Oh, man, they finna get blown out. They finna this, that. And tell them what you said when you turned around and talked to him.
I just turned around and was like, get ready, because it's coming. And the defense locked in. It was over.
There's more reasons why I'm a Miami Heat fan. We locked in with that culture because the culture is me. And we locked in defensively and we took care of business and we ended up coming back and winning that game by 10. So that's how we pulled it off. And then all Micah did was just look at them parents and say, what'd I tell you?
It was very simple to see.
So here's the thing that we know about life really quickly. When it comes to the military, I equate it very simply like this. Fire breeds 2 things. Dead people and leaders, because you have a choice when you get in that fire. You can come out of that motherfucker better than when you walked in, or you can sit there and burn. Your choice, but you have a choice, and that's the key. You have a choice, just like with everything else. You have a choice. Us being African Americans in the military, we have a choice. I've dealt with my share of prejudice and racism. I've dealt with it. I laughed at it. I thought it was funny. So I'm like, bro, we're in the military. The fuck you mean? Like, there's a time and a place where we're going to be downrange and you're going to rely on me to do a job. And all that race and prejudice, you can go out the fucking window because you want to go home to your wife and kids just like I do.
It don't matter.
So miss me with that shit stateside. Because when I take off that uniform, guess what I am? I'm a grown-ass man. And we can have conversations in the back like grown-ass men.
All right.
I like it. That was a good question. I was waiting for that. No, we had kind of talked about it in the pre-show, and I was like, hey man, say, do your thing, bro. Like let's make it happen. So you want to get into our favorite part of this?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
We've been having some deep discussions. So we're gonna do something fun real quick. Something that we love, a segment that was made, and I'm gonna let Mr. GQ drop it. I love that beat. Okay, so let's get into our segment. This people is dumbass millionaires. We've been having some deep conversations, so we're gonna do something fun real quick. But it kind of ties into the whole Juneteenth thing when we were talking about black people tearing each other down, right? I'm pretty sure everybody here has heard some form of the comments of Azalea Banks to DC Young Fly and Jackie O's passing. If you haven't, I'll paraphrase it real quick. She said it was karma of Jackie O's passing, karma for DC, since she got roasted on Wild 'N Out. And she felt like it was colorism on their part because Cardi B is a light-skinned, half black or half Puerto Rican woman, and she's a dark-skinned black woman. And we all know this is Wild 'N Out, man. You can't go on Wild 'N Out, a show that roasts people just for fun, and be butthurt when you get roasted. Yeah. So to wrap up DC Fly's Young Thugs, they played a game. I'm pretty sure we all know the game. So Fly, they changed it because Azalea Banks is so petty. She's always talking down and stuff like that. And DC basically said, my team captain so petty, he couldn't get Cardi B, so he got Azalea Banks' ugly ass. And DC called everybody ugly ass. He didn't really mean that she was ugly.
Yeah. That's his
obviously it hurt it. It hurt it to the point where she obviously feel like she's ugly. But for her to sit there and say on her 32nd, is it 32nd or 31st? At the 31st birthday, that Jackie O died on the 31st of the month of her 31st birthday, which is basically her golden birthday, which never got the point of golden birthdays, but whatever, was karma for DC Young Fly. How can you even begin to equate that and open your mouth and say some disrespectful shit like that? I just want to hear Jeremy. GQ. I know you're gonna rip her a new one, bro. Go ahead, take it away.
So let's start with this. We're not even going to equate it to the people yet. Let's just start in general. You as a person, as a human, cannot wish that level of fucked up on somebody. Because if you can't take what we call simple jokes, then you probably shouldn't go on a show that is predicated on jokes and roasting. Because, Micah, you know this. Dorian, you know this. We're all kind of not too far apart as far as graduating classes go. Most of our lunches were spent roasting each other. Like, that is how the lunches in high school went. Like, it wasn't fights. It was a circle of people, but it was a roast session going on. Sometimes it was team versus team. Sometimes it was one versus one because we spotted somebody that didn't decide it on a cold day in Texas when it was 42 degrees. They ain't put no lotion on, and they look like they got into a fight with Johnson's baby powder and lost that motherfucker. And we got on their ass about it. You know, that's who we are. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, the fact that she couldn't take it, she shouldn't have been there. She was out of place. Now let me bring it back to what we were talking about is you cannot say and do that type of evil to somebody in your own community. You can't wish that level of karma because at the end of the day, he didn't do anything to you.
He was doing his job.
He did his job. And if you listen to him talk, because, you know, he don't say the word ugly. He said ugly. Like, you know what I'm saying? He put a little, little southern twang on it. So you already know he's not being serious about it. And if you watch his mannerisms, he's not serious anyway. I don't think that man has ever had a serious moment on Wild 'N Out. So if you, prior to being a guest on that show, has not seen what this man does and how he does it, you shouldn't have showed up. And simply put, Miss Banks, you out of line for that. And that karma that's gonna come back on you gonna be just as bad because that's terrible. You can't wish that, even if it's somebody that you absolutely despise. You can never utilize death as a karma because death is not a karma. Death is a thing that happens to
it's the inevitable
and people. It is the inevitable. You cannot wish that level of karma because it is not truly what that is. Even if somebody did you wrong for their entire life and the day that they passed away, you're like, oh, that's karma. No, it's not. It's the inevitable. There's nothing we as humans can do about death. We are not immortal. Only in comics.
Only in comics.
Only in comics. I had to get my one little comic book line out of there.
Either one of y'all get a comment?
Yeah, I'll say this, and then after this, I got to sign off because I got to go ahead and do the family thing. And I appreciate you guys having me on, but I think it goes back, and I'm gonna make a full circle on it. It goes back to what we all talked about is clearly this era, and clearly as Black community, we've lost something, and I'm gonna use this adjective. We've lost the way of being. We've lost class. That's the adjective I'm going to use.
We lost class.
We've lost class because, like you said, that's something that everybody's grown up with as far as being roasting. Like, you already knew what kind of person you were if you weren't going to do cut downs and your mama jokes and all this other stuff. If you knew that your behind was sensitive, if you knew that then you don't do that. Because at the end of the day, it's all about shaking hands and just playing around. But at the end of the day, it's about being on that level of making sure that you maintain your composure. And everybody's so caught up on social media. This is the only real social media that I have is like TikTok. Like I'm not really on a whole lot of social media unless I'm doing my Actionverse entertainment stuff. Excuse me. And so I think with Azalea Banks, and I think just as a whole to kind of wrap things up, we just lost class, man. We've lost the ability to gain our composure in amongst people and be able to just be poised in what we have to say, know that it's for that moment, and then move on and be mature about it. And if there's any kind of problem or situation, you handle that shit backstage. You handle that stuff backstage, and then that's it. And I think we need to get that back as a community. I think we need to get that back as a whole. And I just think she's just not. Somebody failed her in the area of knowing how to talk and knowing when to talk about somebody's type of situation, especially when it doesn't concern you. That's something so sensitive. And for you to be insensitive about somebody's kind of death, I would be very leery on the reaping and sowing method of what you just said.
You heard it from Mr. Alexander, man. We appreciate you coming to the show today, man. That was dope. Let everybody know where they can find your entertainment so they can follow you, make sure they keep up with what you got going on.
Oh, yeah. Hit me up on YouTube. It's Actionverse Entertainment. You can also be expecting something big to be dropping next year. Jeremy is going to be involved, and we're going to try to get everybody. We're going to try to get the Black community involved too, as far as trying to get this, because this is a Black community type of event that's about to happen as far as Actionverse Entertainment. I'm being very vague because it's supposed to be a grand opening of something great for Actionverse Entertainment. But yeah, find me on YouTube, Actionverse Entertainment, and talk to you guys later.
Hey, well, right before you go, whenever this whole thing happens, we would love to have you back on so you could talk about it. So,
hey, I'd love to be here.
All right.
100%.
All right. Thank y'all.
I appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
Is he going? Oh, there you go. All right. Your thoughts over there, Mr. Dorian. There we go.
Yeah, I was having technical issues over here.
Oh no, you're good, man.
What was the oh, we talking about the Azalea Banks thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was just messed up. Like, you never celebrate somebody's death. Like, that reminds me of when Kobe died. There was that comedian that pretty much celebrated his death because of that rape case that he had back in like the early 2000s.
Yep.
Yeah, that's never okay. Like, somebody's gonna celebrate your death one day. That's how I look at it. That's the only thing that I can see about it as being karma is that, you know, you excited for somebody to be wrong, somebody is going to be just as excited when you go.
So now that we got the serious part out of the way, let's really talk about this. Shout out to Goat for this comment. But who has ever said, "Yo, turn on that Azalea Banks"? Can y'all name 3 songs of hers?
I can't even name one.
Nah.
I can't name one. I'm a DJ.
Only reason I know who she is because of she always in some stuff. That's all I know.
He was being petty with this one.
Goat stupid Michael older than me. Hey, and more importantly, or moreover, the thing when you go back and watch this episode, first of all, you brought up ugly ass, like how DC says. That's DC's version of head ass. Everybody knows that. He called everybody ugly ass, number one. And number 2, DC ain't say nothing.
He in the middle of he mourning the loss of his spouse. Like, what you, this man ain't worried about
honestly.
I mean, even on the episode, he just said, you know what? She kept on going and going. She was like, I hope you're used to this spotlight because this is as far as you're going. And DC was like, she's still talking about me. And he over there laughing. And then he was like, I'll save it for Wild Style. Never mind. And that's what he said for the next 2 minutes. And she just, they edited everything, but they said she was walking around crying, claiming colorism. Then she came for Nick Cannon. And they stayed all the while, and Outkast started getting onto her and roasting her on social media. Bro, if you can't take a joke the way he said it, you're insecure. And for you to say something like that, yes, ugly as he said your ugly ass was then.
I mean, where's the lie? Because she definitely ain't cute. I don't give a fuck. And she can come at me on social media, but I'm going to tell you right now, if you do it, I'm going to put your ass in a metaphorical fucking grave because I'm going to light your ass up. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to light your ass up. Like, I'm telling you, I'm trying to be nice right now, but...
I see. And then the picture she posted with what she said, I said, come on, dog. I know you ain't roasting nobody in that outfit.
Listen, facts. When 85% of your neck up is fake, you ain't allowed to roast nobody. I said what I said. Fuck out of here.
You remember when Chico told Nick Cannon he got the legs of a flamingo pimp? I don't know what Nick Cannon legs look like, but I think that's exactly what the legs of Flamingo Pink look like. And it seemed like he killed the flamingo too with the outfit she was wearing.
Oh man!
No, but it's the truth. So we was talking about roasting. I'm gonna drop a little story time because I'm gonna bring it back real quick. So this is back in 2007. This is junior year. Yeah, this is all before all the controversy happened when I got in trouble. But this was in the beginnings. Before LXG was created. This is back when we had the asshole crew. This is AHK back in the day. But
wow.
Yeah, this is way back in the time. So we sitting there and our little table that we sit at lunch every day, same people, nothing's different. Everybody got their little area they sit in. So there was this chick. I'm not going to say what her name is because you know how I am about free clout. But if you look up in the air and you know what the name of it is, you know what her name is. I'm going to leave it I'm going to say it like that. So there was this particular day where for some reason she just would not leave well enough alone. I mean, just kept, trying to go in on us. And I'm just like, nah, fuck that. Fuck that. I got mad. I said, bet. I said, look, this is what we're going to do tomorrow. I said, check it out. And I just like every movie you've ever seen, we huddled up and I said, look, this is exactly what we got to do. So when I do this, this is your cue to do this. Like we had a whole setup. So we sitting there, we made sure we got the lunch early in the motherfucker, got to the front of the line, got our food, got sat down.
It's about to go down.
We didn't want anything but this moment to happen. So we chilling. We ain't even eating our food. I'm just watching, waiting for her to come around the corner. So she came around the corner, and this is how you know when we graduated, because we used a particular song that was very popular at this time, entitled Jesus Walks. So when she came around the corner, we started going boom, 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 boom. And she lost her shit. Like we did the whole opening intro. She didn't catch on until we started doing it. And then she threw her slushie over at our table. And I was like, I don't give a fuck. I was like, you just wasted your own money. Like, I was like, they got to do with me. You know, but that shit was so funny because in the moment, you know, like all she do, and you know, it is always, and Michael, you know this shit just as well as I do. It's always the ugly ones.
It is.
Like it really is. And she dead ass, like she looked like if like she looked like Azalea Banks and Quasimodo had a kid. Like that's what she straight up looked like. And so, and I'm like, and she was one of them girls, like she was just bad body built, like she was built as bad as like the penguin from the Batman movie.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying? Massive ass upper body, next to no lower body, like big ass feet. So her shit looked like she was rocking them official Luke Skywalkers, because that's what it looked like. like, look, I'm telling you, look, don't come at me with these jokes because I start lighting them up. That's just who I am. But it was at that moment that she knew she fucked up because she ain't say shit to us for the rest of the school year after that. And I was cool with it because I ain't like the way she talked anyway. She sounded like a cross between like Kermit the Frog and fucking Doc Rivers.
Y'all gave her that menace to society treatment. You know you fucked up, right?
100%. And that's just what it is, you know. Like, but sometimes people just deserve it. And that was the beauty of, you know, us growing up. You know, we ain't worried about nobody popping trunk and all that other shit. We just roast the fuck out you. And then, you know, some people wanted to fight because they couldn't, you know, they had no response. So there's, all right, we'll bet.
You got to fight everybody.
Yeah, I was like, oh, but you don't want to catch a square though. Motherfucker, we can catch a square, a rectangle, a triangle. We can catch whatever the fuck you want. Like fuck you. Like, I was like, because I remember, I'll never forget my boy Charlene that did this shit at a basketball game. And you know him too. So we was beating the shot this basketball team. And then he was over there and this dude was getting mad because Charlene was tearing his ass up. And the dude was like, man, what's up, man? You want beef? And he was like, you know what? Nah, I got chicken.
Well, Charlene was making barbecue chicken out of him.
And I was just like, and you know Charlene, so you can just see and you're like, yeah, that's Charlene. That man didn't take shit serious. That man took nothing serious. And that shit was hilarious in that moment. But I'm glad we were able to have that moment because when we go into this final push here is when we kind of got to get a little more serious. Kind of got to point I ain't gonna say point the finger, but we gotta really dive deep into this very, very, very next part here. So I'm gonna drop this cue and we're gonna get into it. So here on the Real Talk, we like to bring everything down. We had our serious conversation, we had our comic relief, and now we like to, you know, hone in. You know, we've been talking this entire episode about progression and all these other things. So I'm gonna lead my question to you first, Micah, and then I'm gonna follow it up with Dorian, then I'll drop my wisdom after the fact. But thank you. My daughter wanted to give me a baby wipe, so that's just yeah. So and she reads a book, so she know what's about to happen. So my question is very simple. Why do you think we as a community continue to play the blame everybody else but me game?
You know, we talked about this last night, and I've been really thinking about my answer for this. And the only logical answer I could really come up with is mentality, laziness. I mean, those things kind of just roll into one. And I say that just because, and I don't want to be like the person where like, oh, we're going to cancel this dude because he said this. But here's the reality of the situation. Some of our grandparents were alive during segregation. Segregation has now been over for a good while. But a lot of us did grow up with our grandparents, and a lot of us heard our grandparents talk about the white man always held us back, and the white man didn't want us to progress, and things of that nature. We never got our 40 acres and a mule, and things like that. But on the flip side of that, most of us, when we were growing up, we lived with our grandparents. Our grandparents had a house, they owned land, and even though they would blame the white man for a lot of the stuff, they still made a way. They still made a way to be owners. They still made a way to make money and provide a life for our parents and ourselves, because a lot of us did grow up in the house with our grandparents and our parents still there. So I feel like we continually blame everybody else because we're not getting the handout that our grandparents were supposed to get, and we feel like a lot of people feel like just because their grandparents didn't get it, they should get it. But none of us really lived during that time or in that era, and there's plenty of opportunities now if you just go out there and work your ass off. And they don't want to do that. They don't want to do that. And sorry to tell people, success isn't made overnight. That shit is earned. Every successful person will tell you that shit is earned. There was once Diddy quoted, and somebody out there is gonna be like, "Well, Diddy's a millionaire," but this quote is very essential to what I'm saying. Diddy was once quoted saying, "I haven't slept in 3 days because I haven't made $1 million yet, and I'm still trying to find a way to make to make the rest of it." Mentality. So again, I feel like as blacks and young blacks, we all feel and are told time and time again, do sports, do entertainment, things of that nature. And I told you this last night. Where's the people encouraging them to be doctors, to be lawyers, surgeons? These things make plenty of money too. And you don't have to be in peak physical shape. You don't have to be the anomaly where you have physical gifts. Because to be honest, the people that actually do make the NFL, NBA, MLS, whatever sport, they're different. They're different breeds. They are different breeds. Some of them have rare physical gifts. Some of them just have a different kind of mentality, and they don't have the physical gifts. You see a guy like Muggsy Bogues make it in the NBA. He was 5'3", 5'4". Well, the average height of the NBA is 6'6", 6'7". The likelihood of you making it to the NBA, if you're not at least 6'2", 6'3", by the time you're in high school, goes down significantly. Not saying you can't make it to college, but when you get to college, and we're not taught plan B. We're taught plan A, no contingency plan. And that's not a good way to live. And I get it. People be like, well, the championship is especially in sports, that's the all in of everything that you train for. But the point is, you're already successful, and now you're just trying to get to the pinnacle. So in order for us to break that cycle of blaming everybody, again, mentors, mentees, we have to teach them the meaning of successful. I'm a DJ, and I say, you know what? My goal as a DJ is to be booked 3 weeks out of every month, because it's a side hustle for me for the most part. Both of you very well know I'm at least decent in what I do, and I'm booked damn near three weeks out of every month all the time, and that's as far as I wanted to go with it. Some people might not think that's successful, but I set a goal and I succeeded in my goal. I am a successful DJ because I stay continually booked and continually get calls. I don't have to be a DJ that play $1 million to get $1 million to be deemed successful at what I do. So I think the word successful is what we have to break down and teach people. Success is when you set a goal and you reach that motherfucker. Really and truly. And until that is taught, we're going to still keep playing this blame game like I wasn't given this and I wasn't given that. But you might not have been given this and that, but what you were given when you were younger was to have a free education because your grandparents suffered to be taught how to read, write, and get an education. And if you can't use your mind to get an education to become successful, you're going to keep playing the same blame game over and over and over and over again.
Damn, Micah, you dropped a bomb on us. But I'm not gonna let you get away with just talking about you an alright DJ. Nah, fuck that shit. Nope. Hell no. I'll fight you. I'm gonna fight you. Fuck no. This motherfucker done headlined big time Caribbean Fest up in Dallas and shit, and been doing this shit for a hot minute. And any time I'm gonna go ahead and do this soapbox moment. Anytime Mr. GQ throws a party, that's the first and only motherfucking DJ I call because
It's
I
true.
already know what it is. I'm not calling nobody else. For what? I know what I'm finna get when this man pull up. This man has DJ'd every major party I've ever thrown, and I never had to ask him. He just pull up. Hey, you want me to bring the speakers? Hey, I ain't gonna stop you. And we done had some moments. And just
Facts.
like back in our days in Kima, when we bartended and DJ'd together, boy, they
Oh,
learn real
bro.
quick, boy. That ain't the duo you want to fuck with, because we gonna have you fucked up and turned up simultaneously.
Yup.
Oh, trust me, Dorian though, he laughing
I
because he
know.
know he was there. He was there at one of Mr. GQ's greatest parties, which was the adult pajama
Oh
party,
man.
which was literally a movie. And I ain't saying that lightly because the following day was exactly what it was a movie. It was hilarious. It was great. We won't get into detail on that, but just know that it was great. There were people throwing up and down the hallways and shit. It was just out of there, but it was worth it. Just like that night we all went to the ranch. That was a good night.
Good night.
That was a good night, boy. Boy, Dorian and the Timbos was killing it. So,
Oh yeah. Oh man.
but what's your thoughts on that though, D?
I think it starts with accountability, like and responsibility. You say you're mentoring somebody, right? You give them something for them to be responsible for, and you hold them accountable to take care of that thing properly. And if let's say it's a laptop, like you give one of your kids a laptop and tell them to make sure you keep it charged, don't download any viruses, anything like that. Use it for school, and make it to the end of the semester without any issues. And that's now that kid's responsibility. Um, and let's say they mess up, they download a virus, yeah, the whole computer crashes and everything. You hold them accountable because they're gonna blame the virus. Well, I caught a virus, and it's like, well, you told that you put down the guidelines. Like, don't do this, don't do that, and you won't catch a virus. You won't do this. At least make sure whoever that is understands that the thing didn't work because they messed up, not because the world waved its hand and, and, and tripped you up. I think that's the biggest thing is that nobody claims responsibility for anything. Even in sports, like I've trained so many people who swore to God that they were going to go pro if they didn't blow out their knee or they didn't have issues with their coach. Like you played college football 11 years ago, and you still talking about how you could have went pro. Like let it go. A lot of people get stuck in that loop. Like there's one little moment in time where they were on top and then they get humbled and they blame everything but them. Everything about the situation but themselves. Like nobody can be successful until they start holding themselves accountable. And like Michael said, it's just setting a goal to reach it. Like if you're having a baby, the goal is to have the baby. Be successful? I hope so. You know what I mean? Like when you wake up in the morning, the goal is to get to work. Were you successful in getting to work? Okay, I'll go from there. Like everyone has these lofty ideas of what success is, like making $1 million or being famous or stuff like that. And it's just so vain and self-centered that you're missing out on all the growth you could have just by doing the thing. And yeah, I think it just starts with accountability. Make sure someone understands when they mess up, it's because of
that. Yeah, no, I'm with that, and I like both of you guys' perspectives, and I like where your head's at, and I'm gonna be that guy, and I'm gonna take us to the second and third level of this problem, this issue. Excuse me, Mama, Daddy, gotta preach for a second. Give me a minute. And it starts because we, as a culture, have lived entirely too much off of assistance.
Yeah.
And everybody knows what I'm talking about when I say assistance. We have gotten too comfortable, which is the same thing the Dorians have said not too long ago. We got comfortable. And it's like, why are we so comfortable? Because somebody is giving us the bare minimum to get by, and we think that is enough, and it's not. We living off of food stamps. We living off of housing. We living off of Medicaid and Medicare and all this stuff like that, and it's only the bare minimum. It is not the end-all, be-all to sustain life. It is enough to help you get by. It is called assistance for a reason. Assistance, not dependence. Make sure y'all caught that. It is assistance, not dependence. You cannot depend on this for the rest of your life. When you depend on it, you are not trying to progress. Just like we talked about at the very beginning of the show, this is where we have no longer progressed because we are relying on assistance. All right. Now you can come back. All right. Had to get that out of my system. All right. You can't be screaming like that. You know we're going live, right? Anywho, so that is where we've been held back. And because we're so reliant on assistance, we don't think that we have to go do anything else. We think, oh, it's cool. Just like when we started depending on unemployment. We all remember that, especially during COVID. Oh, man, it's COVID. Oh, man, I'm finna get all this unemployment. Oh, man, I'm racking up all this money. Yeah, but what you gonna do when that unemployment dry up? Because that shit dried up quick.
I wish I could have got it.
Appreciate you. Happy Juneteenth out there. That boy's name Mobley. Oh, Scotty. Oh, that's good. But I mean, it's the truth. I mean, Dorian and myself, we didn't experience, all that unemployment stuff because we were active pretty quick.
I was essential, bro.
Yeah, I was essential too. I kept the memo. The memo was in my car. Like I drove around freely, no traffic. Yeah. That shit was great. I was like, wait, I can do this? Shit. But it goes back to what I was saying. We, even now in 2023, we still are so reliant on housing and Section 8 and all this shit. I'm like, but what are you doing to truly progress yourself? You're still relying on other people, but you want to come at people like myself and Dorian talking about, oh, but you and the white man's this, that, and the other. But I'm like, well, but you taking the white man's handout.
Oh, that's a good point.
You taking the white man's handout, but me and Dorian are over here. We over here for a sense of pride and a sense of duty and a sense of everything else. We're actually investing, just like they invested in us. And what is the return on investment? When him and I retire, we good. Because of what I've done, this little girl ain't got to pay for college now. That's what I'm doing. What are you doing with all that government assistance whenever it dries up? What are you doing? What's your return on investment now? Oh, I got $5,000 on my income tax. Yeah, cool story, bro. What you gonna do in March when you done blew all that shit in February?
All stupid shit.
Oh yeah. Oh man, that flat screen TV on sale. Oh, I'm gonna go buy $400 worth of groceries. I'm gonna go do. Why don't you take like $1,000 of that and invest that shit into something that's gonna help you return on an investment the following year?
Bruh, I'm gonna let these people know, because y'all know the DJing thing, right? Real quick. The biggest income tax check I got was a $3,000 income tax check. I got it. I was like, man, I ain't got no speakers. I ain't got no board. I ain't got no sub. I took all $3,000. I went and bought me a laptop, my 2 speakers, my sub, and then I had speakers left over to get a monitor to practice on. Just like that the next year. I damn near tripled my investment. Invest in yourself.
100%. It's all about perspective. And I'm gonna wrap this up by simply going with something that I told you about last night, Micah. But so the R&B singer Monica, she did something that I thought was absolutely phenomenal. Her oldest son turned 18, and for his 18th birthday, she gave him $1,800 to just spend whatever he wants. Then she flipped it and said, "I'm also gonna give you $18,000 to help you start your business and invest in yourself. We're gonna sit down and we're gonna talk over a business plan based on what you want to do." That's the type of shit I'm talking about. She started from nothing. She built to what she wanted, and now she's making sure that her kids have that continued residual income. Our parents, the 3 of us on this panel here, our parents may not have been able to give us that monetary freedom, but the wisdom and the lessons and everything else that they gave us are the reasons why we are standing here, or in this case, sitting here today, being the successful men that we are now. because our parents invested in us, and the return on the investment. One is this little kid that's sitting on my lap right now, but I moved out at 19. I moved out early, and I've been on my own. I came back home one time just because of circumstances, but I moved out. I got my own place. I'm on house number 2, and I'll be 34 this year. My parents are proud of everything that I've done. Just like I know your parents are proud of you, Mike. Just like I know your parents are proud of you, Dora, because we've done things that most people don't do. They don't escape circumstance. They find an excuse to stay. And that's just not the right answer. Like you are only a victim of what you allow yourself to be victimized by.
You know, piggybacking on what you said about the handout thing. All right. So how about this? It's watching, and y'all can go back and preach it to the kids or whatever. But here, how about a handout of knowledge? You know what's a handout? The fact that you can go to the library, read books, and use the internet for free and gain all the knowledge you want to, and use your knowledge to do something to better yourself. That's taking accountability for yourself.
Man, you fuck that. Bro, they got this. They got this. We used to have to go to the library with a motherfucker. We used to have to go to the library to print shit out.
Yep.
Like, not to mention all the Lee College days when we had to, go to the library, use the sources, and do all that shit. Like, if that was the only Wi-Fi we had at the time, was at the college.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't at home. It damn sure wasn't at home. Like, this generation has more power than they realize. Some of them have figured it out, and some of them have not. Because when kids still ask me questions, and I'm like, don't you have a phone? And now we're in this age where we have AI as a thing now. Like, AI is becoming a thing. Like, why don't you ask that device that you own all the time, instead of scrolling, a fucking Twin Towers worth of fucking TikToks, why don't you get on there and actually do something productive? Nobody reads books anymore. How many people actually own a book? An actual book, not even an ebook, an actual paperback or even a hardback book. I mean, I know I do, but I'm just saying, like, in general, these young kids, like, how many of them actually own a book or read books that literally can help shape their lives in a better way, make them better businessmen and women? Like, who owns what we used to call self-help books? We have different names for them now, but who actually owns books like that actually gets them, that betters their life? Like,
the power is in the palm of their hands. I mean, that's really what it comes down to now.
Y'all see
the
this?
Power is in the palm of their hands.
This book was given to me by one of my first sergeants. 365 pages. Every day of the year, it has a different leadership lesson. I read this book every day to learn something different. Even though I've already read this book through and through, he gave it to me during COVID. Just like something that Dorian alluded to earlier about the Bible and stuff. You can read the same verse 5 times and learn something different 5 times. I'm not a super religious person, but I am a person that loves to interpret things because I like to interpret and learn things. And you can learn a lot by simply reading something that someone else wrote. Take from that what you will. We heard this growing up a lot, that knowledge is power. And that's cool. Knowledge is power. But let me tell you right now, knowledge is power is one of the most incomplete statements that we've ever heard. Knowledge is power, but knowledge is useless unless it's shared. That is the full explanation of that. And we never, as growing up, we never got that part of it. We only just told, oh yeah, knowledge is power. Yeah, cool. What about it? How do I harness that power? You got to share it. Little girl, get off my headphones. Killing me. This is what happens when you have kids, folks. They all over the place.
They invade your space.
Man, look, it's 9:00. She's so far past her bedtime, it's not even funny, but she's gonna sleep hard in the paint here in a minute. But that right there, ladies and gentlemen, wraps up our real talk. We had to do it, and it was great. I appreciate Mr. Alexander for coming on. Dorian, my brother, my LXG brother. It was great to see you. Even if we see this screen right here. So I'm glad you was able to join us tonight. I know you'll be here for a little bit. We got a couple of shows coming up that I definitely want to keep you in mind for, especially because you are our resident comic book expert in the group. You know all things comic books. This man has gone through many nicknames with us, and Hulk is one of them. But before we let you go, I want you to take some time and let everybody know about what you got going on. Talk to them about Victory Strength. Like, let them know what's up. Let them know how they can find you and all these types of things like that.
Okay, so I own a personal training service called Victory Strength Systems. It's pretty much straightforward. I'm a personal trainer. I work with anyone from the age of 12 all the way up to age 80. It really doesn't matter. If there's a way I can help you, I'll help you. You can find me on Instagram at Dorian, Dorion, Drake, which is my middle name, 89. You can also find me on Instagram at Victory Strength Systems. So you have those two. You can Google me, or you can Google Victory Strength Systems. I have online training. I have program subscription, whatever you need to help you get to what you want to be. I got you.
Y'all heard that, all right? One of my philosophies that I talk about with all of my young people is you can have your spring break body year round. It's all about perspective and how you train it. So talk to that man right there. That man can help you even if you can't make it to the gym. You heard him. He got online services, man. There's no excuse to take care of you. You only got one body. What you do with it is completely up to you, but we giving you an option, and guess what? Knowledge is power, and we just share some of that knowledge with you. So what you do with that is completely on you. So yes, y'all hear my daughter crying in the background because you already know it's time for her to take her behind to bed. But ladies and gentlemen, thank y'all for tuning in to another episode of Gentlemen's Talk. This has been the Juneteenth special. As you can see, I am the CEO of the Fuck Around and Find Out community, which is exactly what my daughter is about to do in about 45 seconds, Mr. GQ.
And I am a platinum card member of the Juneteenth Committee of McNair, Texas.
Hey, and we out, folks.
When I'm in my zone, I feel like I'm alone. I feel like I'm unknown to the world that's full of clones. My originality's focused on principalities broken. I'm lonely, my heart and soul to the game that's scared to pay it back.